Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, thank you for attending today's webinar. We'll just give it a few more minutes just for people to arrive. We've already got quite a good turnout today, but we'll just give it a few more minutes for some last minute attendees. Okay, so I've think we've got almost everyone here. We're going to still have a few more stragglers. Before we continue, I just want to ask two things. If you could all raise your hand using the GoToWebinar control panel, if you can clearly see my screen. Okay, that seems like everyone. And the second question, I just want to clarify, is the audio coming across okay? Is there any interference on the line? Is my voice coming across as squeaky, distorted in any way? If all seems fine, please raise your hand. Okay, wonderful. Right. So without further ado, we will continue with the session. So as you all may be aware, Microsoft Teams is a well-known name in most businesses. We can tell that by, if we look at our next slide, over 44 million active users are using Microsoft Teams daily, and it is now one of the most sought-after collaboration tools, with the ability to interact internally using instant messaging, sharing spaces with colleagues, and also having the ability to host video conferences and the like, as well as inviting third parties into chats with yourself. The market recently has seen a huge uplift in people wanting to utilize the Microsoft Teams client as a calling system as well. And there are a number of ways of doing it. You could go down the full Microsoft experience and take their calling packages directly from themselves. But you have to be some sort of Microsoft whiz kid to be able to manage features, etc. You could go down what is deemed the direct routing route, which is using SIP trunks into Microsoft Teams, and again, utilizing the Microsoft Teams features, etc. But we also have another option of what we've gone down and seen the most effective route as partnering up with a company called Call2Teams, also known as Qunifi, which basically allows us to continue using our own platform with all of our features such as your hunt groups, auto attendance, etc., and turn your Microsoft Teams client into a soft phone. Some of the features you'll see here, this is a small matrix provided to us by Qunifi about some of the advantages, and I'll just highlight a few of them here. It's, basically it's on a per user basis. You can add Teams integration to a single user, one or two users, or across your entire estate. You keep your key functionality as well as some of your key features. So a Qixi call reporting, our call center platforms, our hunting groups, as well as still continue to leverage our Redbox and Dubber call recording platforms. Now, one thing I have heard recently is there is a particular hosted provider out there who are doing direct routing, and they are a big user of the Qixi call reporting as well. And with their Teams integration, they aren't actually able to report on call statistics using a Qixi. So this is a big advantage we have already. It also offers us the flexibility to be able to mix an environment for customers, so you can have particular sets of users using the Call2Teams or the Teams integration, but you can still have people using your typical VoIP phones like your VVX 450 or the 350 or the 301, etc., and still be able to communicate seamlessly, still using your 3-digit extension dialing as well. So if you have got users who are of the old school and like a desk on their phone without the hubbub of Microsoft Teams, they can still have their VoIP experience while everyone else can still have their Microsoft Teams experience. And as I mentioned previously, with our integration using Call2Teams, clients still get the availability to leverage our functions, the hunt groups, etc. Any call routing changes or call flows, etc., just as it usually is using your standard VoIP features, is all still controlled through SMT. So if you need to add an additional person to a hunt group, there's no need to log into Microsoft admin, change calling groups, etc. It's just a matter of going in, doing the same old thing, go to your hunt group and add those users. Now, one of the key things that we need to help our clients get set up on the Call2Teams platform, there is a bit of background that we need to give you guys is around licensing and what we need. So on this page here, we have a nice little chart here letting you know what the prerequisite Microsoft license is that you require. So what we have is we have our basic licenses here. So your Microsoft Business Essentials, Premium, E1s, E5s, etc. And we have the option of what Microsoft license add-ons that you require. We've got users out here already who are using just the common area phone license. This just enables your dial pad and allows us to call out. But if you wanted it more features, etc., you have the option to go down the Microsoft 365 Business Voice license. Not much difference between those. It says and conferencing within this license structure here, as you can see. But as you're all aware, we already provide conference bridge solutions, which you can add on to subscribers as and when you need on a monthly basis. If you have got an E5 license, then you don't have to do anything. We don't require any additional Microsoft licensing. That's all included within that license. And we must stipulate now that Inclarity do not provide Microsoft licensing. We can offer guidance and advice as to what licensing you need. And hopefully this chart on the screen gives you all of that available information. But if not, you can contact me on the pre-sales email box, or give me a phone call. I'm happy to discuss that further. So what we need to help set you guys up, because we do all the hard work in the background, and you guys just have to click a few buttons for us, is we need the email address of your Office or Microsoft 365 user who has global admin rights. They don't necessarily have to be using the Teams integration. We advocate that everyone does because it's great, but we need to know that address because there's a few authorization clicks that they need to press. We need you guys to make sure that you have the required Microsoft licenses. So going back to what we said just a moment ago, either the common area phone license or the 365 Business Voice license. Then we need a list of the subscribers that we are going to be activating this service on, as well as their associated email addresses, Microsoft email addresses. And then ideally, one or two spare Office 365 user licenses. They don't have to have any of the calling licenses associated to them. They don't need to be built as accounts within Microsoft. They just need to be spare and made available. Now, the reason we do this is the Call2Teams service is all automated for us. It does all of the integration, smart learning itself, and what it does is during the setup process, it just adds the domains, etc., needed to make the Call2Teams and the Teams integration work without any manual intervention required from your global admin or your Microsoft specialist. So what do? What we will do is we will set you up on our Call2Teams portal. This is why we need the global admin user. And once we've created you as a site or a customer on that portal, the admin user will receive an email with a link on it. Please go to this link and it will take you to our Call2Teams portal. Their first step is just to go to the services page, click on the links tab, the Teams tab, and click Enable Sync. And what this does is this enables the first step of the integration. The Call2Teams starts working in the background, starts speaking to your Microsoft tenant, and starts doing the required integration. Once that's been completed, we will just ask you to notify us. And we then go in and use your list of license users that you've requested, your list of subscribers, and we start to build them on the portal. So you'll see on the screen, you'll have the user themselves, the Call2Teams icon here, because that's the service we're interacting with, and then we pop in all of their SIP credentials and details there. Once we've done that, again, we will contact the global administrator and we will just say, can you log back into your customer portal? go to the users page, and then just on the top right hand side, you'll see a sync now button. Can you just press that for us? Then more smart, intelligent integration stuff happens in the background. We're sending the relevant information across to Microsoft and the Teams client. And after a while, it will appear on here with the green tick next to the sync now. That's pretty much it in terms of the configuration and the provisioning. So it's very easy for you guys. There's no hassle, etc. And after a while, we will then start to see that on the Microsoft Teams client, you will see the dial pad appear on screen. Once this appears, you can then start using the dial pad and the Microsoft Teams client to start making and receiving your calls just as you would with anything else. So here is a live example of this. If I bring mine up. Here we have my Call2Teams client. And as you'll notice, I have the option for my dial pad here. Within the client, you've got all of your usual Microsoft contacts, but you also have within here your calling history. So as you can see, I've been using my Microsoft Teams quite a bit. And again, I can hit the dial pad, and you'll see that my DDI number, my Inclarity hosted number, is here just above the dial pad, and I can start making outbound calls as I need to. I'll just turn that off because I can hear my voicemail and myself talking at the same time, and it's quite disorientating. And just as you are in a normal VoIP call on your handset, you can put calls on hold, you can transfer calls, make three-way calls, etc. Still all within the client. Now, again, we go back to what we said before. There are still people that would like physical handsets sitting on their desk. And if you were to go the full Call2Teams solution, you can still do this. You do need Microsoft certified handsets to do this. Upon release, or as of today, we have released and added to our price list the Polycom CCX range. These are brand new handsets released this year by Polycom, or Poly as they're referred to now. And they are built around the Microsoft Teams software. They were built solely for this purpose. So what we have here on the first instance is their entry-level model. So this, you'd log in with your Microsoft license credentials using your username and password, and you get a touchscreen with the Microsoft Teams dial pad on there. 5-inch color screen. They are really nice handsets to play with. We've had one in the office. We've been playing around with, but this is your entry level device. We also have available to us the CCX 500. This is your mid-tier range, and this is where things get a little bit more customizable, so to speak. So this comes in a variety of options. The first thing to note is these devices have got integrated Bluetooth. So you can have Bluetooth enabled devices with them. And you'll see that on the right hand side you have just the base unit itself, and on the left you have the base unit with a typical voice receiver. You can also get this handset with a headset, a wireless headset as well, so it will have a headset cradle in place of a receiver, and they are the three options that we can provide this in. They call it a capsule model, except you have to order them in specific capsules. You can't chop and change as you need to. This will come with your typical Microsoft Teams dial pad, as it does on the CCX 400, but will also have a tab at the bottom on just around here that will have a calendar icon as well, and this will pull through your calendar invitations and calendar appointments, which you can also launch meetings through as well if you're creating Microsoft Teams meetings as well. And then the final handset we have is the Polycom CCX 600. This is a slightly wider phone. It comes with your integrated Bluetooth there, so connect your Bluetooth headsets to it, but it also comes with Wi-Fi available as well. It's a slightly bigger screen, which is a 7-inch color touchscreen, and again, it comes with your dial pad on there. It comes with your calendar integration as well, but it gives you a broader view of what's on screen. And this is more aimed towards your executive type levels. All of these phones do come obviously with the Polycom or Poly HD voice technology, so clear, crisp audio, kind of cuts out as much background noise as it can. And again, it comes in the capsule sort of premise of take the base unit itself and plug a headset into it. It comes in the option of the base unit with a receiver, but also comes with the base unit with the headset cradle as well. All of those versions have been released on the price list, which should be made available by your channel managers today. And if you haven't got that, obviously feel free to pester them and they can send that through to you. And in a nutshell, that's our Microsoft Teams integration. Our marketing lady Jackie has got marketing material that we will be releasing shortly, including data sheets, information on these handsets, etc. And we are able to set people up whenever anyone wants to kind of start taking this stroll down Teams lane. So what I'm going to do now is everyone should have access to a questions box within the GoToWebinar control panel. And I have some already, so I will be just reading through some of these now. Okay, so we have one question about the reseller authorized global administrator. We use one global admin for all of our client tenants. I assume you need the individual tenant global admin, or can we use the same account as we do to manage all of our tenants? That's a very good question. From my understanding, it needs to be the specific tenant's global admin, because we're going to be integrating with their specific tenant and their domain. We need that global admin to be authorizing these integrations. Another question here. If SIP-ALG is active on the home worker's router, may this cause issues with registration, making and receiving calls? Thank you for that. So we all know that SIP-ALG was meant to be, help voice routing, but it plays a massive part in intermittent issues with dropped calls and voice issues, etc. Now, I am working from home. I use my Microsoft Teams client every day. making upwards of 30, 40 calls a day. I have a Sky Q router, which Sky don't like us touching. So it's a box standard out of the room router. I've had no issues with SIP ALG. From what my engineering guys have said so far, is SIP ALG does not affect the Microsoft Teams solution. Okay, so we have one question. Is there any Inclarity integrator integration? So yes, the way to look at this is the Microsoft Teams client is effectively an endpoint for us, just like your VVX 350 or one of our other soft phones we provide. The Inclarity integrator talks to our BroadSoft platform and pulls information from our BroadSoft platform. So the functionality you would get with the Inclarity integrator with any of our endpoint devices would still be the same. Obviously, one of the key things for the Inclarity integrated DB is it integrates with third-party CRM systems. So if you have got third-party integrations that you still want to have that integration with their contacts list, then you can still use the Inclarity integrator. Just having a look here, go through. What are the advantages over the Bria Stretto? As some of you know, the Bria Enterprise, as it's now called, is our existing softphone client. This is, in my experience, a lot easier to deal with than the Bria Stretto. The Stretto has got obviously some great use cases for it. Up until Teams launch, it was something I used consistently. I'll have to draw up a matrix over the advantages of the Bria Enterprise and the Microsoft Teams. That is obviously in the process, but I can send that out to all users. Okay, so we have another one here. Any other handsets supported? I think this kind of goes into another question someone's asked as well. So there is a list of Microsoft Teams certified handsets. Those are the handsets. Those are the only handsets that will work with the Microsoft Teams environment itself. Inclarity obviously have our own portfolio of handsets, including the VVX 411s, the 401s, etc. Those are not certified, Microsoft certified handsets, but they will talk to each other. So if I called someone on a VVX handset from my Teams client, they will still have, you know, the clear communication, but you wouldn't be able to integrate that with the Microsoft Teams. Okay, please can you clarify the difference between the common area license, Microsoft phone system license? Okay, so from my understanding, the common area license enables you to just activate your dial pad and allow us to do the integration to use the dial pad for external calls. The Microsoft 365 Business Voice System, it kind of puts you part way further to, you know, using the Microsoft Teams calling environment. I will find and distribute again another matrix between the difference with the two of them. But one of the main differences that I found is the common area license is usually reasonably more cheaper than the Microsoft 365 Business Voice license. Here we go. I've got quite a few questions. At the start of the lockdown, we moved to Teams calling to avoid taking handsets home. We're forwarding calls from our Inclarity Hunt group into Teams at the moment. Is there a way this whole setup can be done whilst avoiding any downtime, undoing our existing Teams calling? Thank you for that. So anyone who has activated Microsoft Teams and are using the actual Teams platform itself and forwarding calls into that environment, what we are doing is basically continuing to use our Inclarity platform. So if this was something that you decided that you wanted to go forward with, then that's something we can venture into with you. What we will be doing is we add a license to your subscriber, and we can continue to utilize your Inclarity subscribers, and it will just be a matter of your global admin for Microsoft going in, disabling the call plan, and making sure the users we're associating with, we're giving them the correct DDI presentation. As you saw on the client earlier, mine was displaying my Inclarity DDI. If Microsoft have provided you with their own specific numbers, then that's something that we can change through the portal. Yes, I was meant to mention that. I've had a question. Can I use my Microsoft mobile soft phone? Yes. In a nutshell, wherever you have Microsoft Teams client, whether it's on your iPad, your tablet, your phone, etc., this enables your dial pad on those devices. I've been to and from the office. We've been doing an office move, and all I've had is my mobile with me, and I've been receiving calls through Microsoft Teams, through the Microsoft app on my mobile, and I've been able to return and make calls also. Got quite a few questions, and I don't want to take up too much time, so I'll try and get through as much as possible. Do I see this a replacement for Bria Enterprise? I wouldn't say replacement. Everyone has their own tastes and what they prefer. The Bria Enterprise is still a product in its own right, and we will still continue to provide that as a product and a service. This is something to run alongside the Bria Enterprise for people who aren't ready to jump directly into Teams and do the Teams calling aspects. We'll still have the Bria Enterprise there. Do I prefer Teams over Bria? I'd be lying if I said no. I prefer Teams a lot more, but that's because it continues to work within it still continues to work within my Microsoft environment, which I use on a day-to-day. Are there any trial licenses available? We can set people up on trials, something you'll have to discuss with me at pre-sales. If you just drop me an email, we can get that discussed. That's not a problem. And as you saw, the setup process is relatively quick and easy and painless. So I'm happy to discuss that further with people. I have a question here. Any concerns about Ofcom compliance for outbound? I don't, to be personally honest. If you wanted to contact me, then we can go more in depth into this question. But again, we are using the Teams client as an endpoint, a soft phone, and it would be used as any other device. We have our fraud scripts and everything working in the background, that's monitoring all of the outbound calls, etc. So if anything comes across or is deemed as dubious, so to speak, we have measures in place to cut that off. Will the shared directory from Inclarity be available within Teams? It isn't, unfortunately. This is obviously because of the Microsoft aspect of it. If we could, we would get our directory on there. But then again, this is another use case specifically then for the Inclarity integrator, which obviously hosts all of our shared directories and internal directories there. Is there any setup fees for migrating existing clients to Microsoft Teams? Nope. Unlike Bria, if you add the Bria Enterprise to a subscriber outside of one of our bundles, obviously there's a setup cost and there's the monthly recurring. With our Microsoft Teams integration, it is just the monthly recurring. Okay. Okay, does this mean, so I've had one, if a company is a current mix of desk phone users and Bria, they will have to change all handsets if they move over to Teams as a company. If they wanted to continue using the handset, then possibly, but there's no reason why they can't run two side by side. Back in the office, when I go back to the office, I'm still going to have a desk phone as well as the Teams client. It's people's preferences. I would recommend in office environments, obviously headsets, but I wouldn't necessarily say you have to change all of the handsets. Again, it goes down to the customer and each customer's individual preferences. Obviously, any faults of speaking to customers and changing entire environments, obviously please come to me and have a chat with me. That is part of what I do within the business, and we can flesh out the details of and kind of make a plan as to how it would work. I think I've touched briefly on this just a moment ago, but how Inclarity protecting resellers and customers over fraud. It seems like anyone could get a Microsoft account and make calls without the user knowing until we receive the invoices. This isn't necessarily the case. As I mentioned before, we have all of our fraud measures in the background. We're actively reviewing calls. Any suspicious, dubious calls and things like this, they are picked up by our fraud scripts. For example, as some of you may know, outside of office hours, etc., anyone making international calls or exceeding a credit limit for international calls are cut off, and they are terminated. Is the Teams client effectively a second terminal on a subscriber? Yes, effectively. If I was to show you, let me see what I can get up. If I was to show you my subscriber personally on SMT, you will see a whole host of terminals because I do too much testing. But we effectively add the Call2Teams license on our platform, mainly for billing purposes. And you will see that in the portal. If I just bring that across, as you can see here, obviously I've got my Stretto bundles here. I've got my Polycom that will sit on my desk, and then you'll see the Call2Teams license here. We are doing additional work in the background where everything's going to be automated. The process for provisioning, etc., is going to be automated, which could potentially be released to our partners as well. What is the name of the module that is required in the Microsoft licensing? Okay, so I will send out an official follow-up email on this as to what the licenses exactly are, and obviously everyone can have copies of this slide deck as well, and I will send that out to all the participants for today's webinar. Just to reiterate the point, yes, an end user who is 1 second. Yeah, so if a subscriber has a non-Teams compatible handset sharing the same subscriber, yes, that does work. As I showed on here, I will have obviously a VVX 350 that isn't Teams compatible, but I will also have my Microsoft Teams Call2Teams license as well. Okay. Does it use the Inclarity voicemail solution or a Teams one? This one is down to personal preference. If you disable the voicemail section within the Microsoft Teams, then this will obviously use the Inclarity voicemail. If it's kept enabled, there are some caveats around that I'll cover in my release notes after this webinar. But if you're in a call group and someone rejects a call, it pushes that call to that user's voicemail. So it's something we have to be very careful with. Can Teams be used with the BroadSoft call center environment? Yes, as I mentioned previously, all of our solutions, auto attendant, etc., all that functionality is still to be used within the Call2Teams. As I said, the Call2Teams or the Microsoft Teams is a soft phone endpoint. Any plans for bundles that include CCX handsets? No, not at this time. Once you see the price list, you'll find out why handsets aren't to be included within bundled handset costs. There's just no feasible way of us doing it, unfortunately. And do you need the MAC address of the new CCX handsets to add to SMT? Nope. There is no configuration for us for the CCX handsets, so we don't need to add their MAC addresses onto SMT. Okay, so that was a lot of questions. I have been recording this webinar, so it will be made available as well. So once that's finished rendering and things, I will make that available for everyone to download, along with follow-up questions, the answers to everyone's follow-up questions. If anyone does think of any additional questions they may have, please feel free to email me. Email me at presales@inclarity.co.uk. That's presales@inclarity.co.uk, and I will get back to you with the answers in due course. So again, thank you very much for joining, everybody. I hope you found this useful. And again, any questions, please let me know. Thank you very much.